The womanizer is an archetype of character that Fire Emblem has deployed for a while and fairly consistently. It isn't quite the same every game appearance as the red guy and green guy, but it is very much one that is in almost every cast. Its longevity is especially impressive when you consider how much this trope absolutely sucks.
There is no meme. This is just a threat.
While I've been looking at Fire Emblem characters of two tropes for a while now, I've done them in tropes and characters that I like. But I wanted to try at least one episode where I discuss a trope that I don't like, but two characters from it that I do. Now, my dislike of the womanizer trope is not unique. You look anywhere and you can see that there are a lot of people who don't like characters, like Sain or Sylvain, who spend their time harassing women. And it's not just in Fire Emblem either. Characters like Sanji from One Piece, or if we're going to bring it to video games, Zelos from Tales of, are also like this, and I don't like them either. But I do know that this trope does have its fair share of fans, so if you happen to like the womanizer characters, just know that that means I like you less as a human being and think you're less intelligent than me. If you can live with that, go on ahead. The first character I want to go over is Saul from Fire Emblem 6, a womanizing lecherous priest. Now, you would think that being the first womanizer in the advent of support conversations would mean that all he would do is harass women because that's his gimmick. And while he kind of does, Fire Emblem 6 is very smart about giving him a good balance of him genuinely being a good priest and his womanizing antics, and more importantly, it never tries to justify his womanizing antics. Saul has 3 supports in FE6 where he's trying to worm his way into women's pants: Cecilia, Ellen, and Egren, and all 3 of them, very importantly, fail, but the reasons they fail are what make him entertaining. With Cecilia, she has a story about how her father nearly killed the only boy she ever brought home, and watching Saul turn into a spineless coward and abandon the idea is a good chuckle, especially because it's not really clear if Cecilia is telling the truth or if she just made that up. That last line of hers being, "Oh, what a shame," it's tough to tell if that's being sarcastic or not. Then there's Ellen, who's genuinely so naive and believes in Saul as a priest so much that Saul abandons the idea of trying to get with her because he just can't bring himself to keep lying, eventually just going off and doing his own thing. And Egren just ignores him entirely. He does have a nice bit in there because Egren is an atheist and he doesn't judge her for that despite the fact that he's a priest, and it does show his more competent side, but it's very funny that Egren just walks away from him when he starts trying to get with her. Egren doesn't even justify him with giving him a response, and I think it's really funny to watch him fumble like that. In my opinion, Saul gets the concept of a womanizer done much better because he never wins, and the game never tries to necessarily make you like him. They'll show that he's competent, but even then, they won't skid around the fact that he is a womanizer. I feel like there are multiple supports for characters like Sain and Sylvain where the game tries to make you like them. They try to make you go, "Oh, can't you forgive how they harass women when we show you that they really care?" No, at least for me, I can't look past their womanizing. In fact, trying to make me feel sorry for them just makes it worse. Saul is a piece of shit. You're not going to like him, and he kind of knows that he's a piece of shit. His supports with Dorothy are all about her trying to get him to stop being himself, and he kind of smugly, self-awarely gets out of it. No one knows Saul is a piece of garbage more than Saul himself. His entire support chain with Dorothy is about that fact, leading to some pretty funny lines as he's smugly aware of what he's doing and how Dorothy's trying to stop him. There's a misunderstanding. I was just trying to tell them of God's love. No, not this time. What do you mean? I've heard that excuse before. Can't you think of something better? Then please wait a minute while I think of one. I feel like the writers of these kind of characters forget that these characters are fictional. You don't have to make them likable enough that we would like them if we met them in real life. For a lot of these men, that's not possible. But making them into someone who kind of revels in their assholery is something that people can like. There's a reason that villains like Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen are so popular, even though there isn't a single redeemable point about them. It's just fun to watch someone revel in their evil. Now, Saul isn't as bad as characters like that, obviously, but it's very clear that they're having fun with how slimy he is, and it makes his inability to ever get with the girl more satisfying to watch because we know he doesn't deserve it. That's another thing I feel like womanizer characters in Fire Emblem get wrong. I don't think Sane or Sylvain, I keep bringing the two of them up, they're the only two in my brain, I guess, but I don't think when they get the girl that they deserve it. Heck, some of the times it makes no sense, with Rebecca outright rejecting him and still getting with him in the end. When these characters win, I feel like they don't deserve it. But Saul, Gatry is another example of one that never wins. I feel like that's how it should be done. So does that mean I think being a womanizer is completely irredeemable? Not necessarily. If it's something that's grown out of, like it is with Lewin in Fire Emblem 4, I think it can work well. But if you're going to keep the character being a flirt of an uncomfortable degree, I think you have to make it something like Vurian from Fire Emblem Awakening. Vurian has quite a few things going on under the hood, but I think if I had to sum it up, he is the womanizing playboy, but he's actually capable of backing up all the boasts he makes when he's trying to woo someone. For example, his support with Sully has him saying, "Oh yes, I can do great battle to so many people," and Sully's like, "Yeah, okay, jackass," but then he actually shows he's capable of fighting if he needs to. Vurian is very competent. Despite being an absolute coward and a womanizer, he's shown to be very good at reading people, very good at understanding strategies, and he's very competent, which is the joke. You wouldn't expect that this guy actually knows what the hell he's doing, but time and time again, he proves his worth. The closest comparison I can think of is Oliver from the Trails franchise. On the surface, he's just a pansexual who is trying to get in any port that will take his boat, but when you look into him, he's actually probably the most important character in that entire series, with how much intelligence he maneuvers behind the scenes. Vurian is very much like that. His womanizing is just meant to throw you off guard when it reveals the true content of his character. Now, this concept isn't at all unique to Vurian. Sane has a support with Fiora about how he's actually a competent knight working through a fever to protect people, but I think what makes Vurian work for me is the sheer magnitude of the contrast. It's more than just, oh, he's actually a really good guy when you keep him away from women. It's, this dude is one of the most influential nobles around, and he is secretly getting money and resources to help your campaign behind your back, while also being a pathetic failure whose flirts are just seen as annoyances. But even then, thinking about it, I like Vurian's womanizing when he's not womanizing. So do I even really like it there? I don't know, I might sound completely incomprehensible, but I just want this video to show that even if, as a general rule, you don't like a certain trope, try to approach it with an open mind, and don't judge a character just based on what their frame is. If I had just gone, man, I hate womanizers, and never read any of Saul or Vurian's supports, I wouldn't have found characters that I actually kinda like. I only really like 3 womanizers in the entire series. The third one is Gatry, if you were wondering. I find the fact that his womanizing is less based off of malicious intent and more just based off of him being stupid to be a much better way to stomach his type of character. Every trope has ones that are done really well and ones that are done really poorly. Just try to give every character a chance. You don't have to comb over every single support ever written. You can just read one or two, and if the vibe doesn't work, then the vibe doesn't work. But always give it a chance. I think that's what I want to say with this video. I definitely intended that message from the start, and didn't just pull it out of my ass at the very end. But hey, what do you think of this trope? Are the likes of Sane and Sylvain some of your favorites, or are they someone that you absolutely despise like me? Let me know in the comments. Just because I'm uncomfortable by it doesn't mean you need to be, and hell, it's not even really a white knight angle. I know that there are plenty of womanizers written by and loved by women. Edgar from Final Fantasy VI is written by a woman, and he's a very good example of the trope. It just makes me personally uncomfortable. The entire time I've been editing this video, talking and recording, I've been flip-flopping in my brain between, man, I kinda sound like a white knight, to, nah, society has conditioned me to think defending women is cringe, to, even still, this kinda sounds white knighty, to, nah, you're being your own worst critic, so I have no idea how this comes off. I guess, at the end of the day, all I want to say is follow me on Twitter and subscribe to my Patreon. Thank you very much.